Welcome to Soul Sync, a sacred space for women of color navigating the in-between. I'm Pamela J. Thomas, and I created this podcast to hold space for your next chapter. Let's take a breath and begin. Welcome to Soul Sync, where we pause long enough to hear the truth beneath the noise. I'm your host, Pamela J. Thomas. In today's episode, we're going to have a conversation with a somatic healer and talk about what it means to navigate this season when you're in transition. Yeah. And so I'm so honored to be joined by Dr. Barbara Ceptus Schreiber. But before we start, we're going to take a moment and ground and just get centered. So wiggle your neck, shake those shoulders a little bit, just to release the tension. A lot of us carry it there. Feel your sits bones, those bones that touch your chair. Feel supported by that chair. Notice it. Place your feet firmly on the ground. Not with effort, just allow the full foot to be on the ground. And know that you're held. Let's take a deep breath in together. Exhale through your mouth gently. Let's take one more deep breath in together. And hum it out. So use just a gentle hum. And one more time. Inhale. Hold for one moment and exhale gently through your mouth. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello, Dr. Barbara. So happy to have you on this journey with me and in this episode. It's so timely to have someone with your expertise here because the holiday season is wrought with all these expectations and rituals and gatherings of folks that end up making it. It can be a beautiful season and it can also be very stressful. Yes. And so I wanted to invite you so that you can share the somatic experience with folks, how important it is to touch base with your body, especially during times of high stress. Yes. Get that wisdom. Yeah. And so let's start by sharing your journey, if you don't mind. I always find it so helpful to share with folks other folks' journeys, because once you hear people's journeys, you realize you're not the only one. Yes. And you can make it through.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And given that the moment that we're in and the question you started with, if it's okay if I answer that first.
Yeah, please.
Which is that there's little bits of wisdom about this particular time that we're in. And I appreciate your framing of the holiday season, because we expect it's time for family, it's time for gatherings and it's time for get-togethers. And that can indeed be a very stressful time, because your family origin, the families that you've married into, those families can be very difficult and stressful to be with. And when we step back into our families of origin, we step back into so much, our past relationships with our parents, our birth order and what it brings for tensions and relationships to our siblings, our cousins, the stories people have about who you are and how you're supposed to show up. Yes. And those things can start to weigh on you long before you walk through the door, or if you're receiving, long before people come in through the door to your home. Having a practice of pausing and noticing what shows up when you when you imagine certain events really is it's a key it's a key that unlocks the information you need in terms of how to take care of yourself. If there is constriction, there's closing in, there's racing heart, all of those things that are your body in one way or another warning you or letting you know that there's tension there, and pay attention to those tensions. And what can you do for yourself to unwind them, to allow them to move through before you go into the environments that may or may not, that may be stressful for you, right? Those are signs of constriction, signs of stress.
Yeah.
The other thing to notice is where there's expansion. Where in your body is there like an invitation and an opening, right? When you think of that one particular aunt, there's just so much warmth that shows up. There's a relaxing in your shoulders and a ready invitation. And can you use that to sort of temper the constriction, right? Can you move into, I feel the tension about what I know is coming, and there's this possibility of warmth, and then moving between the two very slowly in your own body. So there are ways to kind of think as, we don't tend to think of our bodies unless they hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, but this thing that you're walking around with is an information system. I call it technology. It gives you
Yes.
information about what you might need and how you may need to relate to yourself and others. So pay attention this holiday season as you're moving in. If you are choosing to participate in the Thanksgiving holidays coming up, if that's your choice, pay attention to how your body is communicating with you about what it might need to be able to show up fully. And then if it's possible, give that to yourself, and give that. And so you can give something to others, right?
Exactly. Your best version. That's the thing, is that if we check in, we can bring our best selves
Yes.
to the conversation, to the table, whatever it is.
Yeah.
but-
And notice if you need pauses.
That's right.
Notice if you need moments to disengage, and check in with yourself, right? If you are feeling overflowed, overwhelmed, this is too much and it's intense, maybe a few moments outside for a quick walk around might be what you need. A few moments to ground, a few minutes to connect with someone individually as opposed to the large groups. So notice moments that you can give yourself
Yes.
some space and time to refill in order to be able to come back.
That's
And
right.
there's a lot of pressure to participate in ways that may seem like the loving thing to do, and it may not always be the most loving thing for yourself.
That's right. That's right. For those of us who are introverts, and I know most people that know me probably wouldn't believe, but I actually energetically, I'm an introvert. And so I have to be apart to recharge.
Yes. Or people who are highly sensitive. You
Yes,
might
that
be
too.
the most outgoing extrovert there is, but you're highly sensitive, and you walk into the space and you
Feel
can pick
everything.
up all the things that are going on, and it's
Right.
weighing on you. And so whatever the way you show up in spaces are, knowing what they are and caring for your own needs. Too.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to start. Thank you for that. I mean, there's so much insight there and a lot to unpack. But tell me a little bit, and tell us, more importantly, not just me, about your journey and how you came to do the work you're doing now. I just am so excited about
The work. Thank you for the question. So how I come to do this work, gosh, I always have to start a long time ago.
yeah,
These like
appropriate.
only anchoring places in my life that I always talk about when I talk about how I get to this place where I'm doing integrative somatic healing work. And the first is, and kind of, I start with an anchoring trauma, something that happens to me when I'm as little as 4 years old. And the trauma itself is not as important as what is important is after the event happens, the person who enacted the trauma brought me to my aunt, and I was distraught. I didn't have words. I was a little person. I didn't have words to tell her that something had happened. And so I was crying, sort of slowly at first, and then more hysterically. And she kept asking me, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I couldn't tell her. I didn't have words. So what my aunt did was to hold me. And as she held me, she rocked and hummed. Come from a humming people.
Yeah,
She just held me, and and she hummed into me, and she poured presence into me and love into me in that moment. And she did that until I fell asleep, right? She didn't demand an answer. She didn't demand that I figure out to tell her what was wrong or go find someone. No, she just tuned them to me and
yes,
my needs in the moment, and
yes.
soothed me with her own system. She used her regulated nervous system in that instance to soothe mine. So I have a relationship with that aunt that is very, very close, and that memory of that soothing stays with me. So because of that anchoring trauma, and then soon after that anchoring trauma, there's migration to the United States. So another kind of like devastating, a devastating moment. And a lot of people, I don't know how many folks are talking about migration and what it takes to migrate as a traumatic experience for children, right? Oftentimes our parents leave us so they can come first and then they send for us.
Yeah.
Not what
Yes.
happens.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So migration happens. And then I go from having this community of mamas that I have access to all the time and people who know me. And I'm from Haiti, I'm from a warm island, to
Yeah.
Massachusetts in September, where it's cold and it's a small apartment. And there is this like deep, cavernous longing that grows in me.
Yes.
And so that gets layered on top. And so what happens is what I start to do is what a lot of children do when they survive trauma is I start to dissociate. I start to disconnect from myself in order to be able to sustain the level of longing, the level of grief, and the level of sadness that I
Ugh.
carry in me. And that process of learning to disconnect from myself stays with me.
Yeah.
Stays with me, and until the sort of second anchoring moment is in my late 20s, early 30s, when I start to kind of dabble in different ways. I found yoga, meditation. I'm doing all these practices. I'm trying to pour into myself. I'm in therapy. I am working on my healing journey. I'm working on it. And then I find that I'm just stuck. I hit a ceiling, right?
Oh,
We talk about it. I could understand it intellectually. I could tell you about it. I had majored in psychology. I thought at some point I wanted to be a clinician. So I have all of this knowledge, but something in me is still pretty stuck, right? It's pretty stuck. The processes, the ways of being are pretty ingrained. The ways that I feel in my body are pretty, they're set and they're not budging, right? No matter how much knowledge I gain and no matter how much awareness I gain.
yeah. It's not a mind thing.
But
It's
yeah,
not a mental, it's not a mental, the mind can help, but it's not mental. The
journey,
experiences lock into your
right?
body.
Exactly. And so what happens is the second anchoring moment is that I discover through a mindfulness practice how dissociation is happening in my body. So I'm doing this
Ah, yeah.
meditation. I'm doing a body scan through it was John Kabat-Zinn. I won't ever forget. It's a very long one. Kabat-Zinn's body scan is almost an hour long
Yeah.
because of the work he does with folks with chronic pain.
Yes.
And what I start to notice after a while of doing this is between my neck and my knees, I'm out of commission. The minute we are past the calves and he says, notice the knees, something in me checks out and I come back at the neck. And when that awareness hit me, I was like, oh my God, like this is the disconnection. I can't stay present to my own body. So no wonder things are coming to me when I'm already, past in pain. No wonder I can't stay with myself.
Yeah.
I'm constantly checking out because there's so much information here that I don't want to be with. I have no desire to engage in information that's happening in this space. And so when I realized that, I make this connection and decide at that point that I am going to show up for myself no matter how hard it is. Right.
Mhm.
And I have, this conversation is happening while I'm in therapy. So I've decided this, I am going to do this. And so part of what I do is I go through the body scan and I start to notice before those moments of disconnection, what is happening in me. I start to notice the racing heart. I
Yeah.
start to notice the desire to run. I start to notice the arch in my back. I start to notice the clench in my fist. And I start to say, oh, there's information here. Well, how can I be with this information in order to attend to what my body needs? So
And your mind and your spirit, but they don't know that. I mean, the soul knows, but
so
your mind doesn't know. Your mind thinks it needs to spin.
yes, and you're preempting this, right? So this is exactly what happens. Because I commit to doing this process, what I discover is there are layers of healing that need to happen. And it's not going to begin or end with just mindfulness and attentiveness to mindfulness. And
Yes.
so I start on this journey of trying to figure out what it is, where I can access what's happening in here that I don't want to be present to. And so I discover somatic experiencing. I start to work with EMTR. I work with with emotional release, fascial release, all the body work modalities, and start to understand in my own skin
Yeah.
how these things are helpful and how they start to facilitate my own healing.
Yes.
And after I'm doing this, I start to support other women in doing this work for themselves. Now, because my anchoring trauma had to do with sexual trauma, I work with this population of folks and start to do just at first just mindfulness work. So how can we be present to what's happening is the foundational work. How can we even understand and have the language? So a lot of it was about psychoeducation.
That's
How
right.
do we even have the language of understanding what's happening to us
That's right.
in those moments of disconnection? And so through this work of working with others, of teaching others, of connecting with others in community, that's how Radical Presence is born. And so the name Radical Presence is a question, right? That I asked myself, well, what does it take to be radically present for myself? So no matter what is going on, no matter what is showing up in my body,
Yeah.
is it going to take to be radically present to my soul, to my spirit, in order to facilitate my healing? And so that is the kind of third anchoring moment is this becomes an offering, right? What you
Yes.
found
Yes.
that worked for me then becomes something that I start to offer others. And so those are the three big long story, but three anchoring moments of how radical presence comes to be.
What I love about what you just said, and I feel like there's so many parallels in some
Mhm.
ways between our stories but what I know to be true, there's very few things, but there's a few things I know to be true. What I know to be true is that ministry takes many forms, and ministry arises out of our struggles and
Yes.
our healing process. So the gifts that we bring to the world
Yeah.
generally are not what we would call our strengths. It might be. I mean, yes, your strengths play a part, but the real way that we serve is by sharing our challenges and our
Yeah.
struggles with
Yes.
others and show them they can get through.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I
And
love that
so
you said this.
to just pause and even sorry, I
No, it's okay.
just finishing the thought. So to pause and actually reconstruct your journey is
Mhm.
such an important part. If you want to
Mhm.
know what your purpose is,
Yes.
take that moment,
Mhm.
pause,
Mhm.
reflect,
Yes.
get some help too. The other part I love about what you said is you had support along the way.
Yes.
We need support on this. This is why we've got to start
Wow.
to build community around these ideas because, a lot of in our cultures, and particularly as Black people, a
Mhm.
lot of because of the nature of our journey, particularly in the Western world, we most of our journey has been about covering up the traumas, covering up. You can't talk about, you can't talk about, you can't talk about, you can't. No, don't, and it's a survival tactic. And our elders did what they knew
Mhm.
to try to get through.
Yes.
But we have tools and tips and technologies now. I call it all of those because they are
Mhm.
that can help us navigate it in different ways. And we have to start embracing these things
Yes.
because that's where we start to bring our gifts to the world. Anyhow, jump on in here,
Yeah.
please.
No, that last piece, we have to bring it to the world. And the piece that you said that I wanted to touch on was this piece about our ministry. And it's interesting because this next evolution of the work that I'm doing is directly about tapping into our ancestral knowledge, right? What we
You
have,
and me.
yes, the wisdom that is already within us. When we intentionally connect to our ancestors, connect to the ways of knowing that existed before us and that came through us.
Yes.
It's interesting that research has been able to show that we inherit generational trauma
Yes.
through our DNA, while we also inherit generational gifts.
Absolutely.
There
That
is
wisdom is invaluable for us.
And it's also in our DNAs in the same way that
That's
the
right.
patterns of generational trauma are in our systems.
That's right.
So too are the patterns of generational gifts, but that's not the story that we lead with. Right? So what happens when you find this radical presence, when you're able to be absolutely at the root of yourself, with yourself, then is that spirit comes through.
Yes. No, and And that's the other piece. When you, so there's so many stories we're told about ourselves in these cultures in which we're living. And one of the most destructive ones for us, I'll be honest, I am 100% clear from my perspective that we function better together in a collective and as a community. And I think I think our nervous systems, it may be that other people, but what I know is my experience. I think that other people may be the same, but I know that we function better as a collective and in community. And yes, there are some challenges of being in community, and there's always this tug of war between independence and and the group perspective. But when we start to delve deeply into ourselves and understand who we are, and part of that is our ancestral heritage. Part of that is the things we've been able to experience. Part of it's our soul. Part of it's our ancestral heritage. And part of it's the things we've been able to experience in the earth school. I like to call it, because that's what it is. Very much a school for all of us. When we connect to who we are, when you know who you are, there is no such thing. We've been told there's only room for one or two of us in organizations, and it's only room for one or two of you. There's all of these things, and we have gotten to a place where we think we're in competition with each other. Nonsense. I don't believe that we're in competition with each other. I know we all have unique gifts. Some of the gifts may look similar, but we bring a uniqueness to what it is we do. Each of us has our own unique imprint and on the world and on others and all of that. So no matter what the technique is, when your energy is involved in putting your hands on somebody's body, it will never be the same as what I do. And that's okay by design.
Yes.
So we have to get, and for us, I think the way for us to recover the ancestral wisdom is in community also. This is the other part, because we literally have lost the texts were more like oral texts. The oral and architect. Anyhow, I took a whole course on this type of sharing of wisdom. And so we have the books that, well, I'm not saying there's none, but I'm just saying the canon of our wisdom is multifaceted. It is not just books.
Yes. And that's part of what allows our ways of knowing to survive in the way that they have.
It allowed it to survive, but it also has makes it a different experience for us to recollect it in if we've forgotten parts of it. Yes, it's both and, I think.
Yes, it's both and. So that part of so I'm Haitian, right? So part of, for example, Vodou technology, the ways that this particular tradition gets to survive is lineage based.
Yeah.
Which means that my grandmother teaches my mother and her children, and they teach their children, and they teach their children. And while there is a way of knowing that is true throughout, there are very specific practices that are developed within family lineages.
Yes.
And those get passed on as culture and personality, right?
Yes.
So part of what we're looking for is our ancestral ways of knowing to mirror what we've been fed in other traditions, and they don't look that way.
No, they don't look that way at all. That's it.
And they also don't get lost. They have to be remembered.
Yes.
They are remembered, as you said, they are remembered in community. Right? They're remembered when we have opportunities to come together and gather, and we realize that our rituals don't have to be, they don't have to look exactly like someone else's.
Absolutely.
That our communication with our ancestors are just that. They're downloads that we get things that are passed on, and nothing is forgotten. So I think there's a way that part of what we've been fed is that because our cultures were oral, because what came with us from Africa and has survived through enslavement and where we are now, has been oral and has been passed down in many, many ways. And because it's changed, that somehow it's diluted or not the same. But I strongly believe that what has happened is that it's adapted, right?
Yes,
It's
which it
fully
should.
adaptive and it's stayed, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it would have looked, it's a century ago,
Yeah.
but the essence of it is the same. The essence of it is community. The
Yeah.
essence of it is honor and respect. The essence of it
Yes.
is my soul greets your soul. Right?
Yes.
So that those pieces don't go anywhere. They don't change.
That's right.
And so I think there's a way that we have to remember that when we come back together in community, we have to let that story that says that somehow we lost something in this process go and understand that when we come together, what happens is energetic. But
Yes.
when
Yes.
we
Yes.
come
Yes.
together with intention around connecting with ourselves, with each other and ancestors, what happens is energetic, and that can't be put in a book, right? There is no book that's going to be
Yes.
hold that kind of wisdom.
Yes.
I think it's just I think that piece is important.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so just to circle back to the beginning of the conversation, that
mhm.
that ability that you've talked about to reconnect to your body is actually critical to because it's in your DNA,
Mhm.
because even our ancestors' traumas get locked into our body. I had the opportunity to experience a healing that I could not have imagined in 1 hour,
Mhm.
um, using relatively simple techniques, but I cried like guttural tears from my ancestors
Yeah.
during that experience that I didn't know I could like have that deep a moan and cry
Yeah.
that deeply, but it
Yeah.
wasn't traumatic. It turned out to not be
Yes.
a traumatic experience. By the end of the hour,
Yes.
we're laughing
Yes.
and I could literally feel whatever it was bubbling up and out.
Yes. And that's what happens in an emotional release session, right? You
Yes,
can ask what
it's a
happened.
beautiful experience, and
That is it.
yeah,
There's a holding we have. We think when we go into these things, we see other people crying and we have like this, oh my God, it's gonna be painful, or I'm gonna come through this and we're gonna relive all these painful memories.
mm,
But if you think about what's at the core of who you are, right? It is in essence joy. It is in
yes,
essence like purity. And so what happens when we're able to facilitate releasing all that heaviness that's weighing you down is yes, you cry guttural tears. Yes, you feel the actual discomfort, right, of having those points um, activated and accessed. But right through them, there is this amazing open heart that gets to greet you. And oftentimes the experience is, oh my God, I didn't know this was
well, and it
here.
was so liberating. I cannot
Mm.
explain. It's hard to explain, I should say,
Mhm.
how much energy started to flow. Like all of a sudden, everything took off.
Mhm.
We don't even realize how much these things weigh us down,
Yeah.
in terms of our ability to manifest our gifts in the world. It was shocking. The whole thing was just the most beautiful thing, and of course, I had to learn how to share that with folks because those are life giving. When I have the
Mhm.
opportunity to help somebody else, that's
Yes.
life giving for
Yeah.
me, for
Yes.
sure. And I know it must be the same for you. You wouldn't
It
be doing what you
is.
do if it wasn't.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tag on to this little piece that you said, which is the other thing that, it really needs to be said that when you do this work of releasing the energy in your body, right? What we're looking for. I'm not a massage therapist. It's not
No,
here to
no, no,
make you
no.
feel good and to like give you a relaxing experience. Part of the work of doing this release work is what's on the other side when the heaviness is gone. When you can move that energy, when you can access that fear, you can feel it in your body and you can feel
Yes.
the shaking and the release and the energy goes, is that then what's left is the energy to move forward in all the ways that you haven't been able to.
Yes,
Yeah.
because a lot of what happens in folks, so the thing about emotions is that they're designed to move through our bodies, and we let them sit in there because
Exactly.
we don't wanna feel them.
You
So,
go,
instead of letting the stuff move through,
mhm.
we push it down. We're, like, told when don't you show your anger," and whatever else the thing, "Don't
Yes.
cry," all the stuff,
Mhm.
and we
Mhm.
keep pushing
I'll
and
give you
pushing
a
and
reason to
pushing,
cry.
and it weighs us down.
Mhm.
And it can, depression, some of it is literally pushing all this. You're depressing your emotion. And the thing is once you release it,
Oof. passion. That's what
arises out of that experience. And so it was like it's like the floodgates open,
yes.
and it's an
Yeah.
indescribable to move in 1 hour. I mean, in 1 hour, something moved that powerfully for me. So
The
there's all of these things that, and I'm not going to say that the ancestors didn't know, because I'm pretty sure the medicine man or woman also knew how to move energy in the same way, right?
when
We just have different ways of talking about it and thinking about it, and now we have some scientific words to use around it. But yeah. I
you
love this. This is the best
So
conversation.
two things that one of the things you're talking about is the life force energy it
Yes,
requires to hold these things back.
yes,
Like you said, emotions are meant to be expressed. Something happens, you have a reaction to it. They are physiological responses to the environment, to input.
right.
And so the physiological response needs to happen for you to complete the experience. And we get here and we're like, ooh, if I get mad, I'm gonna burn this whole place down. I can't get mad. I can't get mad. Whatever stories we've been told about our anger and our rage. So we suppress it, we hold it down. And like you said, what that requires is our life force is being used to keep all of these things in place, right?
That's right.
And so we wonder then, why is my back always hurting? I stretch, I work out, I do my yoga, I do my thing, but my back always hurts. How much are you holding in your back body, right? How much are you holding in your shoulders? How many stories are you holding about lack of support within your body? And if you're doing that, you're pressing those shoulders back, right? So when we are able to experience the release of those emotions, what we free up, what we're talking about is freeing up our life force.
Absolutely.
Can then use towards things we're supposed to be using them for in the world,
Exactly.
right? Which is our living our full life, living fully in bodies that don't hurt, are not restrictive.
Yes.
The other piece that you said that I want to touch on is how these technologies have always been with us.
Yes.
There is this technology in Haiti called Gale, right? And Gale means to pull. So
wow.
who knows that if you have if you have an injury in your body, if you've got like a part of you that's not moving the right way, if you've stubbed your toe, you've broken the bone, there is one person that you go to to pull you. And what that person is able to do is help reset the body,
Yes.
is to release the energy and the heaviness. And when I finished my myofascial release training, when I finished doing all of, I'm like, I'm moving through the world doing, I do myofascial release, I do this, and then I'm at a conference with a bunch of Haitian elders, and one of them says to me, this is Gaye. And I was like, what? And she said it to me again.
Oh, okay. So I knew, but I didn't know in the way that you know, but you were told by the elders. Yeah.
But no, here's the thing that came to me after the elder told me this. Grandmother taught me to do this.
Yeah. See?
Right? Like I had already been taught to do this, but we are in an environment that unless there is science attached to it, unless there are initials attached to it, unless this training is, recognized by this board of who,
Yeah.
what my grandmother knew how to do, how my grandmother could reset bones and help people, deal with the heaviness and the depression in their lives, that doesn't matter. She is just an illiterate old woman who knew something, but the technology is then repackaged, and sold back to us.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I think I'm moving to
Yes.
something when in fact, my ancestors had already put in me the technology needed to do this work. And I had to remember that. So now my work is done from spirit and reverence.
Yes.
Right.
So you said a critical piece here. It's being repackaged and sold back to us. We already have it, and we do not. Healing is healing, no matter who gives you a certification. Now, I'm not saying that you should go take a knife and try to cut, because you don't have that skill. But when you're operating from the wisdom, I mean, the things that I do are very hands off. I the people that I work with are always in control of their experience.
Always.
And so I'm not putting somebody under and cutting with a knife. That's not what we're talking about here. But there are very powerful ways to reconnect to ourselves, which is mostly what dis-ease is.
Yes.
Not being connected to yourself. And in this age that we're in, we've got to reconnect to that, because I don't know if we're going to get as particularly as Black people. I don't know if we're going to get the wellness and healing we need within the system, within that within the medical system that's existing. Let's just say it that way. And the more that we can find our way to simple, I'm always amazed at the things that I've used over my life that have really made a massive impact on my pain after perimenopause and all of these things. So the simplest things you can imagine,
Yeah.
used with discernment,
Yeah.
bring you back into yourself, and the pains and all of these things subside.
Yeah.
And so we got to reconnect to all of that.
We
For
do.
sure.
You're
Well,
talking about one of the things that you're talking about here is the way that nervous system regulation is a tool for healing our body,
yes. Yes.
right? And you think about the number one killer of Black women in particular, all metabolic diseases.
Yeah.
And those metabolic diseases are directly connected to stress.
Absolutely.
Stress directly connected to nervous system dysregulation.
That's
right. So while yes, if you have chronic hypertension, please take your medication.
And work on some
One of those
lifestyle things.
Let's talk about doing some of the nervous system regulation work. Let's talk about the body work. Let's talk about the things that are in your purview that you can use to, one, again, reconnect with your body. Know before you have to strap on that reader, what's actually happening, to be able to witness, right? Here are some changes, and I can notice those changes before they become an emergency. We're talking about reconnecting with this thing that you are in, that is constantly communicating with you, constantly giving you information about what it's experiencing internally, as well as externally, right? Like this interoception and proprioception. We can be in relation in ourselves. And so I'm putting this in this perspective to say that it's a yes and it's a both and.
Yes, no doubt.
Here, you can use both, right? We're not saying, throw away your medication and
absolutely no. Absolutely no. Look, there are things that the traditional medical system there's things they do very well. I'm not saying that I can't have my bone healed another way, but if I break my leg, I probably want to go to the ER and just make sure somebody can help me set it if I have that opportunity. Yes. But there's many things that, and one of the things about the existing healthcare system is that it is rare that you find professionals, and not that they're not well-intentioned, but they're also under a lot of guidelines. Because my father was a physician, so I'm not putting any physicians down. That's not this. They're under certain purview, but you'll find it's rare to find somebody who can take the holistic perspective of the person, and there's a part of the healing process that requires that perspective
as well. Yeah.
So I know we could talk forever. I'm going to have you back because I really want to talk about what you brought up a while ago about the somatic experience of migration. I think it's like I definitely want you to come back and talk about that. But I want to kind of just pause for a moment and kind of switch back to the original part of the conversation, which is holiday season. Can you share some? You started to earlier on, but share some ideas for people to tap into during this season as they start to realize that they may be feeling a little stress or feeling a little lonely or whatever the things are. Do you have some tools, tips?
I do. And I think they're always similar, right? The idea of using awareness, using your awareness of self to be able to and this is something that I teach to clients, being able to find your internal yes and your internal no, right? That's a big one during the holiday seasons because there's a lot that's asked of us. There's a lot that's asked of us in terms of being with others, participating in rituals. Can you sense when something is a yes for you or a no? And can you honor that yes or that no? as you move through the season. And if you are not in a position to be able to honor that no, because you have to show up at a function, you have to participate in a thing, can you take time internally to acknowledge the no? Okay. Right? Can you take time to, this is not how I would choose to participate. There's a part of me who really doesn't want to do this. Can you take some time to acknowledge and be with that part of yourself before moving into the thing you have to do?
Yeah.
Thing is, as much as I'm with you in terms of we are a communal people, being with others, being in community, is a necessary part of our healing. This is why I do group work, because
Yes.
the healing that's possible in group is way more powerful and tangible than what we're able to do when we're alone.
Yes.
And at the same time, again, as we're moving through this holiday season, if your family of origin was not a safe one, right? If the stories you hold are about not being safe, not feeling seen, not feeling welcomed or held in your own family system, consider ways that you don't have to show up.
Yeah.
Right? Consider, is it possible for me to choose safety
Yes.
this time over community? Is
Yes.
it possible for me to choose, maybe it's binge watching on the couch, or maybe it's choosing friends, right? Being with who do make you feel safe. So really taking time to find out, is this a yes for me today, or is this a no for me?
Yeah.
And to know for me, if I can't fully honor that no, is there just a small way, even a 2% way that I can honor that no in myself?
Yeah.
And then have the opportunity to make it a no. What are some ways I can take care of myself in that no? Because if I choose to stay home, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be sad,
Yes.
right? I'm not going to miss the laughter, the noise, and the
That's
parts of
right.
what I've really been enjoying. It
That's
doesn't, that's no longer true, because so I'm going to have to sit with some things if I
that's
choose
right. That's
that.
right. That's right.
So what can I do to ensure that I am cared for, that I can care for myself as I sit with the choice that I've made?
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I had told you I was going to ask you a real talk, but I think that was your real talk because we had such a powerful conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I look. So let me just ask you, because part of my work, this is particularly seasonal focused, but part of my work is helping women in transition
Yeah.
do a deep dive instead of you can skirt the surface and but if you do the deep dive, you allow the pause to become a space in which spirit can move in your life. And so I want to ask you, are there any things that you would say to a woman who's in transition at the moment that would help her kind of see that pause differently? Because a lot of us are afraid of the pause. The pause, we're so accustomed to spinning and running and doing that the
Yeah.
pause seems a scary place.
Yeah. Yeah. I would first acknowledge that piece, that the pause is a scary place, right? If the pause is not your usual, being aware that our systems seek stasis. You're going to try to find ways to continue to spin if you're used to being the spinner.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
the highways, it's all the things that need doing, the house and the cleaning. You're gonna continue to do it. And so can you honor that the pause is a shift? I'm shifting into something new. And as I shift into something new, I need to do that with intention and awareness.
Yeah.
And can you build practices to allow pause? What I mean is that, can you intentionally within your day, and they may need to be small.
Yeah.
They need to be a minute to
Yeah.
begin, right? To allow for intentional pauses. Today is a gorgeous day here in Maryland.
Yes, likewise. I'm in Virginia. Yes.
So maybe on a day like today, can I give myself a 5-minute timer to just be outside? Notice the leaves and to set a timer. Oh, shoot.
Well, yeah, if you have to, that's right.
If you have to, give yourself the support. So can you create practices with support that allow you to pause and pause intentionally until your system can be comfortable in the pause?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
We talk about when we do our trauma recovery work around building our capacity to be with activation. We also need to build our capacity to be with anything that's different.
That's right.
What building capacity is just a practice that we have to do in life. When we notice, I'm not comfortable just sitting on the couch. I'm going to get up and go, let me work on that book I've always wanted to work on.
That's
Build the capacity for that sitting, for that staying, for that being still, because that might be a very scary place for your system. That might be discomfort talking to you, not really the need to go do something. So I hope that was that building practices in that allow for the pause. That's the piece I want to bring home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
build those.
That is exactly the perfect point to bring this conversation to a close. This has been it's, I'm so full because this has been a very edifying conversation. I just appreciate you so much. But I want to make sure before we part, where can folks reach you?
Yes,
To
so
support your work and get to know you better.
wow. So there's so many places. If you want to find out more about what I have going on, radicalpresencecoaching.com is my website. You'll be able to find different communities to belong to. The Gathering Place is my free online community. Once a month, we come together, we ground, we do some mindfulness. I teach a somatic skill usually. So that's a wonderful place to connect if you're like, I'm not really sure about this whole life thing.
Yeah.
Come join us at the grounding place. If you're ready for deeper connection, the Coming Home Collective is a membership community. Again, that is a weekly community where we come together and to do this work in a community. Like you said, this is one of the where we do it together. We go there together.
Yes.
And lastly, if you're ready to really get in this, this is specifically for survivors of sexual trauma, but there is something coming, the Coming Home course. I do it every, maybe twice a year, once a year. It's coming back around. So there are ways to learn about the Coming Home course if you are a person who's healing from sexual trauma and want to figure out ways to do that, ways to kind of reconnect with yourself and do that in community. So those are the ways that you can be in community with me, and you can talk about them.
And we'll add that into the show notes. So thank you so much. It's been such a joy and pleasure. And anyhow, I imagine that we'll have the opportunity to work together on some level in the very near future. I just appreciate you so much. So let me give me 1 second and I'll close the show. And I can't express how powerful this has been and how much it means that you've been here. And this is really going to ripple, particularly for those who, are perhaps having some challenges this season. The wisdom that you shared here is going to help people find a little footing, which is always the beginning of the healing process. So, if today's episode spoke to you, listener, I want to invite you to reflect on this question. What's one soul-aligned step that I can take today? And as always, subscribe, share this with someone you know who's standing at their own threshold, and join us again for the next Soul Synced moment. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Pam. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely. If this episode stirred something in your soul, if you felt seen, softened, or simply supported, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review. Your words help other women, especially those at a sacred threshold, find this space. It only takes a minute, but your review becomes part of the ripple. Thank you for listening. Thank you for syncing with your soul. Take a breath with me. Not a shallow one. A breath that reaches all the way down to your center. Inhale, presence. Exhale, pressure. Let's begin again. The holiday season is here, and with it often comes noise. internal and external. Expectations, traditions, to-do lists, memories, sometimes joy, sometimes grief, sometimes all of it at once. But what if this season wasn't about performing presence? What if it was about practicing it? Radical presence is not perfection. It's not forced gratitude or curated calm. It's the sacred act of actually being here, of showing up for your real life in your real body with your real emotions. And from that place, choosing softness, choosing grace, choosing what matters most. So, here's your soul sync invitation. What does radical presence look like for you? Is it saying no without guilt? Is it allowing joy without apology? Is it making space for grief, even in rooms filled with laughter? Maybe presence is taking 5 minutes to breathe in the car before you walk into the gathering. Maybe it's setting the table with intention. Maybe it's staying home. Maybe it's lighting a candle for the part of you that's still healing. Presence is not performance. It's permission. Permission to live in rhythm with your truth, to move at the speed of grace, to bring your whole self, tender, tired, joyful, quiet, sacred, your whole self to the table. Let this season be less about doing it all and more about feeling it fully. Let it be less about appearances and more about alignment. Let it be a sacred return to what really matters. Until next time, may you continue to live soul first. Joy without apology? Is it making space for grief, even in rooms filled with laughter? Maybe presence is taking 5 minutes to breathe in the car before you walk into the gathering. Maybe it's setting the table with intention. Sometimes it may even mean staying at home. Maybe it's lighting a candle for the part of you that's still healing. Presence is not performance. It's permission. Permission to live in rhythm with your truth, to move at the speed of grace, to bring your whole self, tender, tired, joyful, quiet, sacred, to the table. Let this season be less about doing it all and more about feeling it fully. Let it be less about appearances and more about alignment. Let it be a sacred return to what really matters. Until next time, may you continue to live soul first. What if retirement wasn't a finish line, but a sacred beginning? Women Don't Retire is a call to reimagine your next chapter with purpose, power, and joy. I share real stories, deep truths, and practical wisdom for women ready to lead, even after leaving the title behind. Available now where books are sold. See the show notes for a link to get your copy today. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Until next time, stay soft, stay grounded, and stay in sync with your soul. Subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone at their own threshold.